21 people have died after extreme weather struck runners participating in a 100-kilometre ultramarathon in north-central China on Saturday.
The runners arrived at the starting line under sunny skies, oblivious to the tragedy that would soon unfold. As China's elite athletes embarked on a grueling 100-kilometre race, they were determined to push their bodies to the limit. But within hours, the blue heavens turned black, and fierce winds lashed out. Stranded on the slopes, disoriented competitors battled for survival in a hypothermic nightmare. In a heartbreaking instant, the beauty of the ancient yellow river stone forest became the scene of China's deadliest sporting disaster. Acts of uncommon courage emerged amidst the chaos, but nothing could prevent the 21 lives that were lost that day. What went wrong during the Gansu Ultramarathon, and what happened in the terrifying last minutes of its victims? The starting line of the ultramarathon buzzed with excitement on May 22, 2021. The 172 athletes gathered to take on the grueling 100-kilometer race through a remote region in northwest China. Though the sky was overcast, many runners donned shorts and t-shirts, eager to take advantage of the mild weather. Among them was 31-year-old Liang Jing, China's champion ultramarathoner. Nicknamed Liang God by his fans, Liang was attempting to add to his impressive collection of endurance race victories. Also at the starting line was 42-year-old Huang Guanjun, fresh off a marathon gold medal win at the 2019 China National Paralympic Games. Though hearing impaired, Huang was determined to test his limits against the country's best long-distance athletes. The diverse field of competitors shared a drive to push their bodies to the extreme. The 62 miles trail was set along Mijiasan Hill of the Yellow River Stone Forest, a treeless karst terrain at the transition from the lowest plateau at its south, to the Tenga Desert at the north. The terrain is mostly alluvial sandstone. The starting line, at the main entrance of a scenic area, has an elevation of 1,595 meters, 5,233 feet, while the summit at the third checkpoint reaches 2,230 meters, 7,320 feet. The most rugged and narrow section, the second and third checkpoints, are not car accessible and require 1 to 2 hiking hours from the nearest roads in the best weather conditions. The event coordinator did not assign any staff or aid stations to the second and third checkpoints. Worse still, the 2 checkpoints are largely mobile phone signal blind spots. The night before the race, when the weather was pleasant, the organizer offered to collect runners' night supplies, and to place them at the 6th checkpoint, 62 kilometers, 39 miles, to be picked up by the runners mid-race the next evening. In the 3 previous years the race was sunny and hot, so most runners handed away their windbreakers. The next day, they showed up wearing vests and shorts. While warming up at the starting line, they were concerned by the cloudy, windy weather. However, the weather forecast the night before should have warned the organizers that it would not be a hot day, as the previous 3 years had been. The evening before the race, the city's meteorological center issued the lowest grade of a 4-graded wind warning, and stated, in the upcoming 24 hours, in Baiyan, Jingtai, the average wind speed will reach levels 5 to 6, and gust will reach levels 7 or above, accompanied by yellow dust and sand. The Provincial Meteorological Center, at an unknown time on the day before, flagged a key notice that warned, 21 to 22 May is forecasted to have massive yellow dust and sand carried by winds, a drop of temperature, and some precipitation. Atmospheric convection is getting strong in May in general, so beware of sudden heavy showers, hail, lightning and gusts. But as the runners took off into the plateau region at 9 that morning, spirits were high, and the weather seemingly indicated pleasant running conditions. Within hours, the sunny skies gave way to a raging storm that would claim 21 lives, and leave China searching for answers. The early miles of the course snaked through ancient canyons and past weathered sandstone pinnacles. Many runners later said the beauty provided an invigorating distraction from the grueling uphill climbs. But late in the morning, the environment turned unexpectedly hostile. As 31-year-old Liang Jing, China's champion ultramarathoner, reached the 12-mile checkpoint, elevation 7,320 feet, the temperature plummeted, and fierce winds pelted frozen rain sideways across the exposed mountainside. In a short period of time, hailstones and freezing rain fell in the area, and there were strong winds, Zhang Zukan, mayor of the nearby town of Baiyan, later told reporters. The temperature dropped sharply. The thin emergency blankets provided by organizers shredded in the gale. Runners scrambled to shield themselves behind boulders, as the storm overtook the mountain. Liang huddled in a cave with 3 others, but tragically would not survive before rescuers could reach him. Meanwhile, the hearing-impaired gold medalist Huang Guanjun forged ahead into impossible conditions. Friends reported seeing him later, soaked and struggling but still on his feet. He would not make it off the mountain alive. As the storm battered Checkpoint 2, a distress call sounded from the remote site. But communication failures left the message unanswered for 45 minutes, precious time lost. 6 agonizing hours passed before the gravity of the situation reached emergency coordinators downstream. The extreme mountain conditions induced lethal hypothermia in the ultramarathoners, occurring when the body loses heat faster than it can produce it, causing a dangerously low core temperature. Many competitors were underdressed for the elements, lacking proper wind and waterproof apparel. As temperatures plunged to below freezing, accompanied by rain, racers were unable to retain their body heat. The wet conditions also increased conductivity, allowing heat to escape more readily. At higher altitudes, lower atmospheric pressure reduces the body's ability to thermoregulate. Also, the wind chill effect was amplified above the tree line, enhancing body heat loss. When exposed to these elements, several physiological responses occur. Blood vessels in the extremities constrict to preserve core temperature. But as muscles grow colder, they become uncoordinated and shivering begins. This can dramatically increase metabolic demand. Meanwhile, the frigid air triggers faster breathing, which further cools the body from within. As hypothermia progresses, severe symptoms arise. Mental confusion makes navigation difficult. Heart rate and blood pressure drop precipitously. At a core temperature of approximately 90 degrees Fahrenheit, amnesia and hallucinations occur, rendering the victim incapable of self-rescue. Below 86 degrees, the heart becomes irritable and arrhythmias develop. Once core temperature falls below 82, ventricular fibrillation causes cardiac arrest. For the stranded ultramarathoners, the combination of high winds, wet conditions, and high altitude proved lethal. In these circumstances, fatal hypothermia can develop in as little as 30 minutes. The confluence of weather, inadequate preparation, and hazardous terrain put competitors at high risk. Racing ahead into the storm, even top athletes were helpless against the power of the human body rapidly cooling toward death. Recognizing the urgent need for help, shepherd Zhu Qiming emerged from his cave home on the mountainside. Braving the elements, he assisted runners who had lost their way in the blinding snow, ushering 6 to the warmth of his shelter. The humble cave saved the lives of those disoriented athletes. But farther up the slopes, the death toll mounted. Bodies lay scattered across miles of rugged terrain. When firefighters arrived after dark, instead of experienced rescue teams, they faced a grim recovery operation. What came was an inexperienced crew in the wrong clothing, said one anonymous runner, who provides a chilling first-hand account. Freezing and panicking, athletes perished right beside the race path, collapsing just steps from potential refuge. In all, 21 competitors died on the merciless mountain that day. Among China's running community, news of the tragedy sparked deep grief of the lost athletes. Trail running is the same as mountain climbing, said Jing, one of the lucky to survive the ordeal. You have to prepare for the worst every time, and not count on others. Many questioned if adequate safety precautions had been in place, clothing requirements sufficient, and contingency plans established. In the aftermath, accusations have flown regarding who shoulders responsibility for the disastrous race. But acts of heroism have also emerged. The bravery of shepherd Zhu Qiming touched the nation. Locals worked tirelessly through the night to rescue struggling runners. Their compassion and quick thinking prevented further loss, though survivors' emotional scars will persist. The government has vowed an investigation and reform. All risky outdoor competitions are suspended indefinitely across China until oversight improves. But healing the broken trust after this tragedy will require time. For now, the running community can only grapple with the needless loss of so many bright lives. On the slopes of the Yellow River Stone Forest, chilling winds still whistle through jagged ravines, echoing with heartbreak. Steps from the fatal course, shepherd Zhu Qiming again tends his flock under brooding skies. A nation away, families grieve those stolen by the bitter cold. But resilience endures in this remote land, the spirit of those spared by strangers' kindness, and the memory of athletes who bravely chased glory until the end. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more extreme stories from the edge.